Welcome to another edition of Soulfire Ascension with Raven and Lisa Love Light. Raven is an aura, past life regression, and clinical hypnotherapist, a quantum galactic Akashic reader, raw Reiki angelic alchemy healing practitioner, and Yu Shui Reiki master. Raven also offers one-on-one spiritual consultations. Book your free 15-minute discovery Zoom call with Raven at ravenshealingarts.com. Lisa is an aura practitioner, raw Reiki quantum galactic Akashic reader, Yushui Reiki master, and offers one-on-one soul coaching sessions. For questions or booking sessions, you can message her at sacredheartquantumhealing.com or at myabundanceflows247@aol.com. You can watch Soulfire Ascension on YouTube and Rumble. You can also listen to Soulfire Ascension on Spotify. Please do like, share, and subscribe, and we hope you enjoy the show. Greetings. Welcome to another episode of Soulfire Ascension. I'm Raven and Lisa.
I'm Lisa, Love Light. Greetings.
And today we have an author of Open Your Heart to Nature and Beyond, Dr. Linda. And before we start talking to Dr. Linda today, let's play her little promotional video. Soulfire Ascension welcomes Dr. Linda N. Cameron, author of Open Your Heart to Nature and Beyond. Dr. Linda maintains there is one problem: separation from the divine, and one solution: applying some form of forgiveness. It details the holding relationships that actually separate us from the divine, and how to use the law of forgiveness to let them go and open our hearts to God's presence. Like a computer delete key, the activity of forgiveness allows us to let go physically, emotionally, and mentally until we join Universal Being. Live Friday, October 18th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you missed the live show, you can catch the replay on YouTube or Rumble at Soulfire Ascension, or listen to Soulfire Ascension on Spotify. Soulfire Ascension is sponsored by ravenshealingarts.com. Book your free 15-minute discovery Zoom call with Raven today. Don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. Awesome. Welcome, Dr. Linda.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
This is the book. You can see it down in the corner as well. Thank you so much. So, it's so nice to have you here finally.
Oh, yeah, that's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We slept since we originally made this. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, you are a doctor.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I came to Baylor. It's a PhD degree, a doctorate of psychology. And I got my master's and doctorate at Baylor. And while there, everybody, the horror stories they would tell by the time I was studying for my doctorate and stuff. So I left and started going to the Lake Waco. I love nature, and I've never been afraid in nature, not like some people are, and I don't mind a few bugs, but I would go down there during the week and study. And then that's when I started having very powerful religious experiences. As a matter of fact, at the time I thought, well, I'm going crazy. And because most of my training at Baylor was scientific. You know, they waved the flag, we're a science. And psychology is a science, and that's nice, and I learned that. But the experiences, they were the signs of psychosis, which because of my coursework I had in my mind. And I remember one time, one of the experiences was so powerful. I left. I remember sweeping up my case lounge, got it, and went over to to St. Paul's Church. I was brought up as a Episcopalian, and told him, I said, I believe I'm going crazy. He said, what's going on? So I told him about the experiences. He said, well, it is abnormal. And I remember thinking, Bill, don't tell me it's abnormal. That's too scary for me right now. And because I really was genuinely afraid. I found out later in the Course in Miracles that when you start having these experiences, you get close to the divine, the wrong-minded ego begins to torture you and scare you, and that was the form in which it scared me, because I have to have my mind, to be a psychologist. But Bill said, well, no, and he suggested I start reading in Carl Jung's work. He said a lot of people at that time weren't having them. Now a lot of people are having these experiences, I recognize, in the last 10 years. But we're looking back in the 70s, kind of the mid-70s when all this was going on for me. But anyway, so I started studying Carl Jung's work, which I love his work. He went much deeper in the psyche than Freud. Freud was great on the psychosexual stages of development, but Jung went deeper into the connecting with the archetype of the self, which is the image of God within a Christian tradition or other traditions, that talk about that higher level of the mind. And anyway, so I loved his work, and so I did finally finish and came to Dallas and did my internship up here at a pain clinic. So I don't know what I can add to that, but that's this book. This is when I started writing the book. The first one I wrote was Cosmic Surfing. I was having those experiences, and I said, what is a word for this? What it feels like is you're surfing the cosmos inside of yourself. You're not moving necessarily, but I like a moving meditation. And I'm not one to close my eyes and do that, but I like to move with eyes wide open to meditate, because then you can move through the veil that way. But I thought, and I started reading in the area of mysticism, and no one had talked about any stages in this. And most of the things would say, well, it was an oceanic feeling, etc. And I thought, our language is not geared toward religious things. It's more geared toward physical objects in the sensory world. And I thought, well, you've got all this psychological words and things. Why not look at your experiences, Linda, and then label it and see if there are stages there to it that you consistently have when you have these experiences. And out of that came there's 6 stages I came up with that consistently go through. But sometimes you can be in one stage and totally stay there and not in the other ones. And so that's the way this started, that I really wanted to take my psychological languaging, so to speak, and put it on so other people who might want to go out and experience these journeys and stuff would say, oh, yeah, I know what she's talking about there. Then I looked in other religions and saw the interesting thing to me was the other religions, the major religions, the people who had those insights, they were focusing on one aspect of what I saw as a 6-stage process. That I got in the studying of this material. For example, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam we're considered the children of the book, so to speak, the Bible, but in they had a personal deity. What I call the being stage, this is where you're sitting in the void, and the Eastern religions stay here, the clear light of the void. You've left the physical world, you've joined into the void, but if you apply the law of forgiveness there, then you'll go into a higher stage, which you'll be filled with the love of God. And that's Christianity. You have like a personal, it feels very personal relationship. So anyway, I don't know whether I've got off track here, but
no, you're fine.
Okay. But I found consistent stages here. The first stage is like the cognitive emptying stage. You apply some, and then I discovered this, and already came through, that the law of forgiveness, which Jesus introduced, not the way I used to conceive the law of forgiveness, that I sat on my phone and handed out unmerited pardon these miserable crumbs who hurt my feelings. I learned in the Course in Miracles, it means let it go. Just let it go. And anyway, if you are in one stage, you then, once you're in that stage, like you cognitive emptying stages where you get into the here and now that Eric Tolle talked about. You apply the law of forgiveness, you let go of your emotions, you let go of the flying thoughts or the monkey mind, whatever. Then you're in the here and now. That's the first stage. What form you use doesn't matter. It's going to be some form of forgiveness. Every tool in psychology involves some form of forgiveness or letting go, which is fascinating. That fascinates me. The form is different. So you find the form that mine is going into nature. In fact, a lot of people tend to have experiences in nature. Um, Jesus retreated to the desert often to connect with God. Buddha was in the forest for 6 years, and he had enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. Muhammad was meditating in a cave when the stuff came to him. He went running home to his wife. He said, "Honey, I'm either a madman or a prophet. What do you think?" She says, "Darling, you're a prophet." So anyway, but it's but Eric Tolle in his book The Now answered. The main thing I got from that book was because I kept thinking, what is it about nature that allows people to more easily have these experiences? Walt Whitman would be someone else that had a lot of experiences in nature. And what he came up with, and I think it's good, is that if you're able, when you're out in nature, when you're working around in the world, you're focused on the objects and the space you're in. When you're in nature, you begin to focus. It's so big and uplifting. You focus on the space. That like it's your mind sinks to the space, and it is in that space where you're not having all the thoughts and the monkey mind going on that you go to the other side while you're here. And that's the trick. You go through the veil. So anyway, so the first stage, cognitive emptying, is a very powerful stage, but you can select what works for you. I didn't want people to get in, so you have to do it this way. Like a wolf peeing on its territory. And if you don't go outside the territory to do something, you're going to hell and, that kind of stuff. I'm not into that. And the second stage is that, I call the sensory synchronizing stage. Look at the word sensory. That's your five senses: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. But it's synchronized. You become aware. You're empty now. Now you're in the here and now. So you become aware of the sensory world. And then things begin to synchronize. I remember one lady, I carried a workshop up to Wichita Mountain Wildlife Refuge. Loved to go up there. And while I was playing music, I like playing Native American music to start with because they are focused on getting you connected into the sensory world. And then you move through that to the other side. But
I definitely love the flute.
Oh yeah, and the drum, the drum is the heartbeat. But I always start. I have playlists like on my iPod, and you can walk through these stages with different songs and stuff, and you'll get the emotions in them. And then you'll have a religious experience. But I kind of lost train of thought there. Oh,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No problem.
I interrupted you.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Just remind me where I was. But she was saying, Linda, the music you're playing is vibrating with the flames and the fire. And I thought she's in the sensory synchronizing stage. Everything is synced. It's orderly and etc. Here's okay. You feel the unity and order in the universe. What I'd like to do, this is from Rumi, and not Rumi, Tagore. And I begin to see that a lot of your poets are mystics, and some of the things they describe are stages in this mystical experience I'm talking about. For example, he writes this: "In the stillness, I hear every blade of grass, in every speck of dust, in every part of my body, in the visible and invisible worlds, in the planets, the sun, and the stars, the joyous dance of atoms through endless time, the myriad murmuring waves of rhythm surrounding thy throne," which is the throne of God. And I thought, oh, that's how you feel there. They really captured that very, very well. Now, this stage, the sensory synchronizing stage where you're syncing, you're still in the subject-object dichotomy. You're a subject, is an object that they talk about in the Oriental origin. So you haven't transcended that, but you're on the verge of connecting with the order and the thing. The stage ends with a feeling everything is as it should be. And when you feel that, everything, you don't need to do anything, etc. Robert Browning talks about this in his poem, Heap of Passes. He wrote, "The years at spring and the days at the morn, mornings at 7, the hillside do pearl, the lark's on the wing, the snail's on the thorn, all's right with the world." See, everything is as it should be. It's a great feeling. Sometimes, because during various things, I was in school and then starting the practice up here and things like this could be stressful, trying to pass the state boards. But sometimes I would stay more in this stage. I found that if you need a certain stage to feel those energies, back to your point about energies, if you can feel those energies, you may stay in that stage the whole time and not have the kind of spiritual orgasm of love, I call it, in the later stages, because you need that. Okay? So the next stage, am I getting too technical? I hope I'm not.
No, you're
Okay.
doing great.
Okay.
No, beautiful.
Okay. Kinesthetic cognitive stage. Kinesthetic is another sense. What happens during this stage is there's a shift where you're shifting inside and you become aware of your own body. You become aware of your own mind. Now, this is where Rumi was a teacher of Sufism, which is the mystical branch of Islam. Every religion has a very mystical branch, by the way, which I think is fascinating.
Yes, they do.
Think about it. And he says this: "I am the dust in the sunlight. I am the ball of the sun. To the dust I say remain, and to the sun roll on. I am the mist of morning. I'm the breath of evening. I'm the rustling of the grove, the surging waves of the sea. I am the mast, the rudder, the steersman, and the ship. I'm the coral reef on which it founders. I am the tree of life and the parrot in its branches. Silence, thought, tongue, and voice. I'm the breath of the flute, the spirit of man. I'm the spark of the stone, the gleam of gold and metal, the candle and the moth fluttering round it, the rose and nightingale drunk with its fragrance. I'm the chain of being, the circle of the spheres, the scale of creation, the rise and the fall." When I first read that, I thought that's very important. And it seemed to capture that stage, but I didn't know what it meant in an experiential or energetic way. I do now, where what you are again at this point. You're beginning to connect with what they call the zero energy field in quantum physics, by the way. The movie Oppenheimer?
Yes.
The thing I loved about that movie was they showed him as he began to see the future, because when you connect with the future, you're connecting with the past, the past, the present, and the future. And that's why true prophets have connected to. It's open to all of us. But He showed in that movie how he connected with that and could see the kind of the fruits that were going to come out of that atomic bomb. That fascinated me in the movie because I haven't seen any other place where that's taken place, really. But now Einstein talked about the old man. He called God the old man, and I think he downloaded his theory of relativity. And even who's the guy who wrote Your Cheating Heart? It's country. I can't think of his name right now. Everybody's heard that. Your Cheating Heart. His country was. And they used to say to him, "How do you write all these songs?" He said, "God gives them to me." What he's saying, that whatever thing we have, when we connect with the zero energy field, because I've gone there and I get the answers. It's like a download. To use kind of computer terms, it comes down to you. That's where I saw that the different religions, major religions, were different, focused on different aspects of this mystical experience I'm talking about.
Yes.
But each time, once you're in that particular stage, at the end, if you apply the law of forgiveness again and let go, you keep going to a higher stage. The being stage, this one was a little hard for me because here In the being stage, you start seeing faces, not only in clouds, but everywhere you look are faces. And that to me is my training in graduate school. That means, that's a hallucination, Linda. I certainly wasn't going to go to a psychiatrist and tell them that. That's what scared me so bad. I did a hike. I love the sweat lodge experiences down in the Navajo Nation at the Chinle Canyon. You have to hire a guide to go down into the canyon. Probably, but anyway, the Navajo guide, his European name was Tex, but I was kind of checking things out. I said, I see two faces in that rock. He said, yeah, and there are four over here in this one. So they're much more connected, particularly the Navajos, with this stuff that we as European Americans get all caught in our head, which separates us. You know what I'm saying from that?
Yeah.
But anyway, in the being stage, you start seeing the light across everything. And let me see if I think I have a I hope my dog's not coming across there. She's kind of whining a little bit. The Gospel of St. Thomas, one of my favorite Gospels that they voted out of the Bible, by the way. He cites a lot of what Jesus said. He said, split a piece of wood. I'm there. Lift a stone and you will find me there. So he's in everything and everywhere. So if you look, the computer was coming on the scene around this time, and I Googled the apparitions of Mary because there's so many reports of her coming in the light. Okay, and I was astounded at the number of experiences, and there's no doubt about it. But what I was thinking, I was on this side trying to go to the other side. When the being stage, you begin to see light on everything. And it's a different type of light than like a light from a lamp. And but if you're coming from the other side, coming here, you go through the light. And I thought of a prison. You send light through the prison. When it comes here, it divides into the colors. That's a separation. So either way you're going in this situation, you're going to experience the light. Let's see if I can find. Oh, okay, cool. This is by a Tibetan Buddhist. It's a little bit longer, but I think it's worth looking at.
That's okay.
Okay. When I said light, you probably thought about beams of light or sunlight phenomena coming from somewhere. But in true realization, you're not realizing those lights as objects. The objects of the eye consciousness and so forth. You're realizing the light is clarity, luminosity. There's also peace, joy, bliss, openness, and all-knowing wisdom. And you are the light, and the light is you. That's oneness. Now, they speak of the clear light of the void, of course, in the Oriental, in the Buddhist religion. This is the union of openness, nature, and the spontaneously arising wisdom and appearances of intrinsic light. This principle is the very basis from which esoteric Buddhism speaks of non-dualities, transcending the subject-object dichotomy, and stuff like that. Light was not just the light of our ideas, but the light of the feeling. Oh. Okay. I'm sorry. The light of peace and bliss. So the light includes the type of emotions that go with it. It's a light. And what's interesting, you look in the different religions. Christianity talks about being in the light of God. And of course, in the Buddhism, enlightenment. It's all tied into this light, which is the foundation of things. So if you're going in this way to go through the veil, you're going to experience light. It's almost, I went up to the Tetons, because the middle Tetons, according to the I Am teachings, in that middle Teton, above it is an etheric temple by Leto, where a lot of the ascended masters go for teachings. And I remember there, I opened my heart. And that's why the book's named that. When you open your heart, you've opened to the mind of God and you see light, everything. It's hard to describe again because of our language. We don't have words for it. But y'all are shaking your heads, so I know you probably had these experiences I'm talking about. So that's great. But anyway, and now, if you apply the law of forgiveness when you're in this stage, you'll be filled with the love of God. It's like a spiritual orgasm, I call it. It's much better than, say, the regular physical stuff or whatever. It's very powerful, I'll say that. And you usually wind up in tears and stuff. I know I do sometimes. It's just so awesome. I don't like to use that word. It's so frequently used today, but that's what it feels like. In Aspiring Mystic by Carl McCullum, he writes, to immediately feel the pulsation of pure joy and flood your bones and veins makes the pleasure of the things as drugs or even sex seem pale and insignificant. And the final stage, I just call the extending stage, where you come back into the Word, you're filled with the love of God, and love wants to extend itself. So that's the flow I consistently come up with. You don't do it every time, you know what I'm saying? But for the most part, it is one of those different stages and stuff. That's kind of what I had. I don't know what the time is. Oh, good. Okay. If y'all have any questions or what, but I remember.
Actually.
What'd you
I do.
say, Lisa?
I have a question if you don't mind.
Okay,
if you don't mind.
Oh.
I'm just curious because Dr. Cameron, you quote many, many different things in your book and here now. May I ask, how many books did you read to get all of your information for this book that you wrote?
Well,
Because it seems that you reference a lot of books in your book.
I read them all, and because I had the opportunity to be able to do that, and while I was in grad school and things like that, and I like to read and study, and I wanted to say, look, there's a lot of this out there, y'all. Look at this and this. I talked about the things I discovered on that for myself, like the law of forgiveness. It's the most healing principle of the universe. We could not even have this conversation here today without using the law of forgiveness. We both had to come here. To get here, we had to let some muscles go as we contract others. To listen to me talk about all this stuff, you let some thoughts go and you let others come through. We are permeated in the law of forgiveness. It's the most healing principle that Jesus introduced. That's why I call it the law of forgiveness. And anyway, it's very, very powerful. And if you look at the form of the thing, you can see it's based on the law of forgiveness. It's very, very, very healing. I'm sorry, my dog's going through it. Very healing. Okay. But I like reading. And I wanted to find other people and not just present it in this is what you should do and that kind of stuff. In terms of religions, I studied Zen Buddhism for 3 years, but I needed that because I have a very strong left brain. What Zen Buddhism taught me, and they do that with the koans. What's the sound of one hand clapping? Well, to the left brain, that's ridiculous. But they taught me the limits of the left brain, that you're not going to have an experience of God that way by memorizing all the verses of the Bible and this kind of stuff, that you need to move into the right brain. So, but I don't know. That's just my spiritual journey. When I finished with one thing, new stuff came. As we were talking very briefly before we went on air today, I started with Carl. He was my first hero, Carl Jung. I still use him, particularly when I work. But dreams are very powerful. And a lot of psychologists said, oh, that's just a random firing of neurons. Well, it's not. I took a dream journal for 5 years and followed that. And it comes out. We just don't know how to talk to that part of the mind. It speaks in symbols and images instead of the left brain stuff that we're talking in right now. But anyway, then the next thing came along. It's funny, I recognized when first time I studied the Course in Miracles, I said, this is my next step in my journey. And it took things and turned them upside down for me. And anyway, it's very powerful material. I think it's the New Testament. I really do. And some of this is quite a funny book. There are places in there where he says, and there you close the doors of hell upon yourself. Well, that's hilarious. Not funny, but inside. Or he would say, whatever you do, don't cling to the old rugged cross. It's not going to get you there, you know. So there's a lot. Then the next thing I studied was I Am teachings, which is what I focus in on now. And that's some very powerful stuff too. Very powerful. and it's I've read most of the green books, the yellow books and the blue books and stuff. I just like to read back to your thing. So anyway,
Well, that's
it's nice.
good. And I identify with the I am.
Oh,
Yeah, I've dabbled a little bit in that, and I think it's very powerful, honestly.
which aspect did you get into?
I
Did,
just got into more or less like I am is, that's what God says, I am. And
yes,
and when we say I am, we are translating in that.
yes, and you have to be careful what you say after the I am. I
Yeah.
also studied a book, and I haven't mentioned that tonight, but he was a Jewish guy, and he also talked about the divine name, and he learned the chakras, and he measured to get the frequency of your different chakras, and then
Yes.
he designed the divine name he came up with. He had a dream, and he was going from the lower to the upper. And then the dream told him to go both ways, to go from the upper, the seventh, down to the first, and then do kind of a circle and come back up. Here's what the divine name's A, and it came out to be Yahweh. If you do that and do the secret, I listened to this tape. I carried it down the lake down here. I love to go to the lake, even though I live in Rowlett. That's one reason I like the suburb. I go down there and sit there, and it was in the summer, and they tell you down here it's over 100. You don't go out, you'll have a stroke if you have a heat stroke. Well, nobody goes to the lake. It's an ideal time to go. You go get in the water, you get wet. We have very low humidity in the summer, so you almost feel chilled. You need a t-shirt on or something. But there was nobody down there, so I carried his 1 hour tape, and you just go Yahweh, and you do the chanting stuff. And I'm sitting there, and I did it out loud because nobody was at the lake but me. And suddenly I was swarmed with bugs, and I stopped because I've been biking before, and you get bugs in your lungs, it's not good. And I thought, well, Lordy mercy, stop, Linda, and let this go through. Well, then they disappeared. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? So I started doing the chanting again, using his stuff. And here came the bugs again. And it was getting down here about 8:30, and it's August and stuff. Around 8:30, it starts getting dark. So we have a long evening, which is nice. And as I turned, the light came on in one of the posts up there. And I saw the bugs around. I thought, oh my God, I don't see energy. But that chanting was bringing the light. So these bugs that were phototropic were coming right to me. And I thought, well, I'll be doggone. There are a lot of exciting things that can happen when
Yeah.
you get out and take the time to do this. It's quite fascinating to me. I mean, it's just unbelievable still. It's exciting. But anyway, I've used to that experience didn't scare me, but used to things like that did. But they're not so much anymore. I know it's just a lot of people don't go after that kind of stuff, which is okay. I think a lot more today than the other times. So
Mhm.
anyway, yeah.
I think it's pretty interesting, and I know that you touched on how time was linear. It happens past, present, and future as simultaneously, and a lot of people have a hard time getting that concept that time is exactly like that. I mean, we are living in this dimension, but we could also be living in the past and in the future at the same time.
Yes, I kind of thought about that myself, that maybe I have another lifetime somewhere. In fact, I had read that here you can come in and deal with several lifetimes at one time.
Mhm.
The issue we're talking this popped up is the second time this popped up, so it may change the course of our conversation. But let me say, when I one of the things that helped me so much understand the more metaphysical and mystical part of stuff was believe it or not, was quantum theory. That made
Yeah.
it perfectly clear to me why now the I am activities talk about doing decrees. You call it forth. And I thought, well, they've always told me Jesus is the only one that can do that. And but quantum physics says, no, you're calling those we've been given that gift. So free, I created you in my image. It's good. That's either a truth or a lie in my mind. I've been given that gift that I can pull those electrons, protons together, and then I'll picture them. It's in the word if you look at the definition of faith, it tells us exactly what you do. It's the evidence of things unseen. Right now, I'm seeing the thing, whatever it is I'm wanting or whatever it is I want to change on. The evidence of things unseen, the substance right now of things hoped for. So that is, to me, a statement of the law of attraction, right in the definition of faith. Think about it. So I thought, since quantum theory helped me and satisfied my left brain logical mind of why prayer and decreeing actually works and why these solutions that have none of the stuff in it actually can heal you, because that was a real hard one for my scientific mind. But I understand that now. But I thought maybe there's an answer for what is the law of forgiveness. I pulled out some of these physics for dummy books and stuff because I'm not an expert in that. And lo and behold, I found it. The second law of thermodynamics is a statement of the law of forgiveness. That law says that all things go back, they disintegrate and go back to the original stuff, which is electrons, protons, and neutrons. So from that, I thought, wait a minute. When we hold on to the negative stuff, and you notice I talked briefly about in the thing you had, holding relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We hold on to all this painful stuff or whatever. That is contrary to the natural flow of things in the quantum physics. Think about it. Anyway, we let it go. One thing I do, though, and this may sound kind of weird to people, when it took a long time to get a doctorate, and you finish all your work and get your stuff. So I had an older car, and I thought, wait a minute, if I put love in that car and keep putting it in that car, well, it's actually a little motor coach. If I keep putting love in that, it'll stay together. Well, it's now in 1995, it still works. So you can put stuff like that and begin to use these things to help yourself with, by the way, which I think is okay. But the fascinating thing is there it was. No wonder we get sick when we don't let things go. It's contrary to the nature.
Yes, I agree.
And that's new. Nobody's done that. I think that Sheridan has some wonderful books. I'm sorry, I can't think of the title of it, but he talked about the God matrix and some things like that. But nobody has recognized in the stuff I've read, and I tried to do an expansive review of the literature so you know what is and what isn't. Realize that forgiveness is the second law of thermodynamics. It just fascinates me to see those parallels between the two. And in religion, it says, once you open to God, you open to all things. Well, you can put that in quantum physics. Once you open and you apply the law of forgiveness, let go and join the universal energy field, ask what you want and it'll come to you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's nothing really mystical about it when you get down to it. It's very logical.
Yeah. And speaking of letting go, I have been doing some studies on letting go cellularly. Your body has cellular memories.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have been learning how to release those cellular memories instead of keeping them. You know what I'm talking about? Instead of holding on to them, because you don't need to hold on to them. Those cellular memories that no longer serve you. So I've been learning to get to, so that would come under the same thing that you're talking about.
Forgiveness, letting it go.
Letting it go.
And as you were talking, I thought, well, that would say you could let go of stuff from other lifetimes. I used to have a place in my back, and when I was in relationships, and kind of felt like I was being stabbed in the back, that area would act up. Well, I went to a Jungian conference on the body and ghost ranch, which is out near Taos in New Mexico. And I had someone pull that arrow out, but my husband shot me in another lifetime, and I brought that wounding in. And I had read that if we're in a situation that's similar to another lifetime, it can actually cause the scab to come off of that, which is good because you get to release it. So as you were talking, I thought, oh, well, that's a good way to unraveling and undoing some of the stuff that you might have from other lifetimes and things. Because what I loved about the I am teachings, their real focus there is is letting go of stuff to get your ascension. That what keeps us grounded. And a lot of people, I use a lot of, it's a kind of an energy technique. Francis Shapiro developed. She's a psychologist, where it kind of looks woo-woo stuff, but there's plenty of scientific research at shifting energies and stuff. And eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, fancy from EMDR. But but that's again another way of using the law of forgiveness, of releasing this stuff that's in us. Mm-hmm. You know,
Absolutely, it does. Well, we have things carry over in this lifetime from past lifetimes.
yeah.
And there are things, honestly, I do past life regressions, in between life regressions and future life regressions. And believe
Oh.
it or not, we carry things in this lifetime from the future. We can.
Or we can go. I studied for a while. There was some online teachings of Alberto. He was a psychologist, but he's also a shaman. He studied with the Indians. I don't know whether you ever seen any of his videos. He talks about you can go into the future. Isn't it funny? We do focus on the past more than the future
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. But he talks about going. I've never gone to his workshops and things because I don't go out of the country that much. So, yeah.
I was reading a book. It's by a dentist he's a hypnotist, and he had this client who had this germophobia thing, and he was a
Okay.
psychologist, and he went to this hypnotist, and they come to find out they went through his past lives, and it was nothing in his past life. It was actually in his future life that and
Oh.
it was this long drawn out story, but it actually happened in his future life and he was carrying it in this life,
Oh
which
my.
again, how time is linear. We are living past, present, and future at the same time.
I'd never heard of this before about the
Yeah.
future coming into the present. Wow.
Yes.
I haven't heard of
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yes,
Hmm.
it's called progression instead of regression.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, that's interesting.
you can be progressed into a future lifetime.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have had several lifetimes. The Navajo Nation, where I like to go, there's a cliff out there. And I was Navajo in another lifetime. And also, one reason I like the wildlife refuge up in Oklahoma, love that place. The Native Americans up there would never fight wars there. You could feel the sacred stuff going on there. I don't know what it is exactly, but you can feel it when you're there. The Comanche tribes there, I was a member of that tribe. But when I first went to the Navajo Nation and went out on a peninsula, I thought I had been here before. And sure enough, I had, at the time, the scene I got was everything was dark except one small fire, and I was sitting around it. And Great Spirit is the way it talked that time. Said, "It's time for you to take this stuff out in the world." And I said, "Oh hell no!" And I jumped off the cliff and killed myself in that lifetime. But here I'm
Oh,
back. I'm trying to get it done before I leave this time. And
yeah, I know what you're saying about that because when I was young, maybe 10 or 11 years old, we went to a reservation as a school trip. And I remember standing on the edge of this cliff, which in New England, everything is cliffs and rocks and ocean.
okay.
And I remember standing on the cliff and seeing myself and knowing that I had gone home.
Oh yeah, yes.
So you have
Sometimes
that
you're
feeling.
drawn to the places.
Yes.
I was working a lot on the masculine, feminine issues. It was down when the women's movement was getting going in the 70s. That's what Truly Feminine book was about because I was working through those issues myself. And I remember this is when they had that conference. Youngins had the conference on the body and thing, and I drove because I was still on internship, so I didn't have the money to fly and do all that. But but I remember I had a dream where I left, and the dream I was in the ocean, and there was doo doo everywhere. Young calls it prima materia. But anyway, I remember the dream thinking, "Oh God, just don't get it in your mouth, Linda." But anyway, when I came out of the water, there was a black thing, and it had an image of a masculine and feminine on this image. You know that black pottery they have there in New Mexico? if y'all have ever seen it, but it's pure. When I got there, I thought, oh, I'm going in because at the Pueblo, you could go in their hunts where they were selling art. Went in there, and there was that piece that I dreamed about in there, and I knew then I had finished working on the masculine and feminine issues within Carl Jung stuff. So yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it is a fascinating journey. I mean, it just is. And my husband killed me in the Comanche tribe in Navajo Nation is what I got, because we had an invading tribe. And I didn't want my baby. It was a little boy. I didn't want him to die. So I gave him to the other tribe because I knew we were going to lose. My husband shot me with an arrow through here. That's that wounding I was talking about earlier in our conversation. And but anyway, I've seen him before and he's forgiven. But my twin flame, which they talk about a lot in the I Am teachings, the twin flame is a Native American, and I came here. I didn't marry in this lifetime, and I finally got off the kid. Well, why don't you get married? Well, I knew I was busy with psychology and writing and didn't want it. And I thought, no, I came here to be by myself and to learn so that when I die, I'll be at the same level as my twin flame, who is right way ahead of me. Because they say once you finish your journey here, y'all come back together and go forth. But yeah, it's some interesting work. By the way, see, this ascended masters, a bunch of ascended masters went to Helen Blavatsky back in the late 1800s and wanted her to form some groups and stuff. And they created the Arcane School. They're the blue books. They're dark, maybe blue. Alice Bailey wore quality. You may recognize some of these people. But they got so intellectual, they weren't creating and bringing enough light through to help heal the earth. And so then he went to Mr. Ballard, who was at Mount Shasta, Saint Germain, who was Jesus' father in another lifetime. And Saint Germain went to him and they said, will you and your wife take over this? And that was the Saint Germain I Am teachings, okay? Then there was another book, Bridge to Freedom, when he died, and those are the white books and the yellow books. But if you want to read some, I'd go with the white and the yellow books. Some really good stuff there that you'll think, oh my goodness. They tell a story there of Mary, beloved Miriam. She talks about it in her channeled book, The Last Memoirs of Jesus and Mary. And she said when they selected her to have Jesus, she had to go through a number of trials and stuff, okay, and testing. And she went into this room with the little elemental beings, and she was wearing pink. She said, all of a sudden, they all turned pink. She said, well, they're saying that, and they're loving me and making me feel accepted. Well, the next time she went in this classroom, but she was having to learn how to hold the ultimate perception for Jesus until he could hold it for himself. And anyway, they wore green, she wore green, they wore green. And she finally figured out that all these elemental beings actually are picturing what we are doing. And so in the I Am teaching, your storms, like the horrible storm went through North Carolina, my homeland, and the floods and all this stuff. This is out of kilter stuff. They're feeding off the negative energy that we're projecting to them. That was real hard for me to get because I do have kind of a bit of a scientific mind. And now I know that's true, that if I'm holding all this negative, their sole purpose is to mimic what we tell them to do. So if I'm sending out all this anger and rage and etc., I'm creating storms and etc. Isn't that interesting? It kind of sounds far out, but I believe it's they have a wonderful book in the white books of that. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit off, but since there's a lot. The I Am teachings all came out around, and Unity is a part of that too, by the way. They all came out during the 30s, and some very powerful material. So anyway. You might.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lisa, you have any comments?
Awesome.
Oh,
I do.
Awesome.
I have Linda, doctor. I love you. Thank you for being here. You're like, you make me giggle. I love listening to how you as you tell your stories on your journey.
Okay, good.
You've got comedy in there.
Yeah, I
Beautiful.
don't want the, people to
But
get bored.
I do have a question. No, well, and so my question is basically for the audience, because I know where Raven and I are in our levels of understanding. We totally understand where you're coming from with this book. For our audience, could you say one of the most helpful things this book would help them with? How would your book help somebody who doesn't know where to start?
That's
Right?
a
Like
good
when you
question.
meet somebody who maybe just needs a little direction, because sometimes there are people who are just stuck in their programming. We have
Yeah.
to get them to exercise opening their hearts and minds to other ways, right? Or other perspectives. So
Mm. That is a good question.
It is.
Mhm.
okay.
A couple things came up. The main one was be still and know there's a God. What does that mean?
Beautiful.
That talks about when I get quiet, I put the phone down, I turn that off. Find a place where you feel safe. Mine happens to be nature. My father, helped me with nature, but be still. A lot of people are afraid to do that because sometimes when we first get still and quiet, the hurt starts coming up or these feelings start coming up. So you need to know that it's okay if they come up. You're not going to be taken over by any hurt or anything that comes up, but being still and quiet, listening. And if any negative stuff comes up, then that's what you deal with and let it go. And it will keep coming up. That's just part of the process. We have to let go of all of that conditioning in this lifetime and other lifetimes. And as we do, we will get the ascension. We'll feel it. Sometimes when I do EMDR, which helps people let go of stuff, they're using it a lot with PTSD and stuff now within psychology and stuff. But you let that stuff go, you feel lighter. You're at a higher vibration. That's all it is. You're at a higher vibration and you rise. That may not answer your question. I'll be pondering that for the next few days to see if I can get a bunch. I will. I know I will. I know myself that well. That's a very good question. But that be still and listen. Think of the law of forgiveness of letting stuff go. Our greatest healing bridge. I equate that with the law of gravity almost. It's more of a spiritual law, but it sure works. Did that help any?
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Absolutely.
it's
Thank you.
awesome. It's been a very interesting conversation.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I've enjoyed being here, and I would like to say this, that I mentioned this briefly to y'all before the show when we were waiting for the clock, that this was the first podcast I've done, and so I appreciate the opportunity y'all have given me to come and do this. And also, in your texting that y'all stuff you sent back, you kind of signed it a number of times, light and love. And that's what I picked up and felt. That felt real good to my little child piece that says, Linda, what are you doing out here doing this? this is new. I'm more of an introverted person. I'm not out and kind of, that kind of thing. I'm just, I'm more introverted. So anyway, that was very helpful to me, to feel it. I felt what y'all were passing on.
Well, I would say, Lisa, I think she's a natural. I could never tell this was your first podcast, honestly.
Well, gosh, thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you're very good at this.
Well, I believe in what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it shows, I can tell.
Okay.
It does. It shows. And you've given us so much information. And this is actually, it's a wonderful book.
It's very small. It's
it's not a big book at all. It's a
but
small book.
It's really my life's
Very
work, I
easy.
guess.
Very
Huh?
easy.
And you've
Oh, good.
written other
Wow.
books as well,
I said
right?
it's a very
Mhm.
Yes, it is an easy read. Lisa
Mhm.
said
Good.
it's an easy read.
Good. Well, thank y'all. Yeah, because I can see, so I need to be quiet now. Let you
No.
close out the program.
Um, so what I'd like to say, usually we ask every guest, what is it that you would like to leave? What
Oh,
message would you like to leave our audience with today?
well, what comes up is, and it's very heartfelt. I can feel it. It's as I hope I can get through it. It's God loves you more than you could ever possibly imagine. That's it.
That's beautiful, beautiful.
Someone said that to me too.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can feel it. I feel the energy. I really do.
Good.
It's beautiful. So we would like to have you
Angel
on the
bumps.
show again sometime.
Oh, I'd like that. I'd like that. I have some other stuff. The truly feminine. I don't know whether it fits, but it's about the youngins over the last 40 years come up with resolving some of this trans issues and some things like that, by the way. So, but that
Mhm.
may not be within y'all's purview. You know what I'm saying? But,
We try to bring everything.
Oh,
oh,
What we
absolutely.
try
okay.
to do is we try to just bring the truth out to our audience.
Okay. Okay.
I believe that there's been a lot of, what do you say, programming or that sort of thing, and people don't really understand, or they're just starting to awaken to the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And what we like to be able to bring to others, like, it doesn't matter whether it's Buddhist or pagan or Wiccan, it all has to us, it all has one core. You have in that core, you have love and you have source. And it doesn't matter if you call source God, or
Right.
or if it's Buddha or whatever, it's all. And people have been taught not to go near these other things because they don't really want you to know those things.
You're going straight to hell.
Yeah,
That's the
but
wolf
that's
truth.
not true.
Mm-mm.
And so what we try to do is try to bring the truth to light.
That's
And
why I included so many different religions and stuff in my material and et cetera. But, but yeah, it's, um, uh, uh, yeah. That's why I'm thinking like the Zen. A lot of Americans need to study Zen Buddhism. You're not worshiping a different God. You're seeing the limitations of the mind, and you need to see that because you need both the left and the right brain. Yeah. So yes, I see religion in a much different way now.
yeah,
The different world religions, they emphasize different aspects.
hmm
But yeah, people are scared of going to hell, and that's what it boils down to in Sunday school terms. So anyway,
yeah. And are you planning on doing any future writing?
well, there's a part of me wants to write a little bit about the I am movement, and that it's kind of like Christianity with different denominations within the I am movement. There are a number of different things, and I thought, do I have time in my life to do that? Because I need to kind of get out there with this stuff a little bit and at least kind of let people know it's here.
Hmm.
But and I have just finished another children's stories about the powers based on unity material. See, to me, with the creativity, you can do anything with one idea. You can make a song with it. You can make a poem with it. You can make a sculpture with it. You can make music with it. It's all kinds of things you do for the same idea, and it's so I don't know how much time I'll have to do that. I don't know, but I'd love to do it if I could. That's
Right?
why I kind of got into it when you said you were in the I am. I wanted to immediately kind of go there because that's on
Yeah.
my mind. But I wanted to leave if people for children's stories. so a mother or a grandmother could sit down with their child, because most of the things I worked on in therapy with people were how to deal with emotions, and start that at a very early age, how to accept yourself, and put it in little childhood rhymes and stuff, so kids could get that very early in life. So I want to do that a little bit too. So
I'd
anyway,
be interested in that for my grandchildren,
oh yeah, it's they're all, if you Google my name, it'll
Mhm.
pop up. There's the P that could not see. And what's interesting, these stories came through. It was a rainstorm, and I was going out to the lake in Lake Waco, in Waco, Texas, where I was when I studied. And the storm came through, and this whole book came through about a white cloud. And it perfectly shows how to deal and release anger through letting the hurt go underneath the anger. They just come down. It just comes in. Now, I'm polishing the rhyme right now, because you have to sit back and polish the rhyme so it's funny. And anyway, I know we need to stop. So,
Oh no, you're fine. If we don't
oh,
stop on the hour, we're good. We usually say it's an hour show, but
oh, but
but I
those two,
gotta
and then
go.
there's one on broken wing is a hurtful thing. It's impossible to fly regardless of how you try. There's no way to perch on a branch of a birch. But it talks about the pain and suffering. You have to accept it. If you look up the word accept, you know what it says? Let it go, which is forgiveness. I worked at a pain clinic, so I did a lot of stuff on designing things to teach people how to deal with physical pain. It's the same as emotional pain. The techniques hold the same. But gust of wind is free, you see, about freedom and creativity. What other one do I have? The white cloud. Oh, the P that could not see. And she listens to all these little things that tell her who she is. And in the end, she says, I'm such a catastrophe, I'm going to bury myself. But when she puts herself down in the ground and listens to herself, then she sprouts forth as a beautiful vine of a pea. So anyway, but that's just not
Oh,
true. They just came through, and it was a free gift to me as I see it, and I'm very
mhm.
blessed to be able to receive it. It's a lot of fun to receive it.
So can we find your books on Amazon, right?
Yeah, or any place really. You could order them from a bookstore and etc. And the but if you Google, they'll pop up, and you can get those. You can get them so they're online. The children's stories, because I do a little bit of work with that at Unity Church here in Dallas, but you can get it for $3 or $4. I think the books themselves are just $13. I didn't want to get all this hardbound books and all this stuff. It's not necessary to. It just costs more money for people, and I just didn't want to do that. That's why this is paperback, and that's sufficient. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, why not? So, but I do appreciate y'all letting me come on, and I appreciate the feedback you gave me. That makes me feel really good.
Oh yeah, you're a very interesting guest. So yeah, I
Well,
would like to have you on again. Absolutely. Well,
okay.
let's look. We got some comments here.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Oh, Mama
yeah.
D. Look at Mama D. She already put up your links.
Oh,
How about that?
oh my goodness.
Mm.
Thank you,
Look
Mama
at
D. We love you.
Yeah. Well, I thank her too. She's putting my stuff out there. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
Love
she's good
you.
at
Thank
that.
you.
Mama D is part of the Fox Den, her and Gina, and
Awesome.
they're amazing ladies too. We love them.
yeah.
So,
So anyway, well,
hey,
good. I
Mama
hope.
D,
I,
love you.
Thank you.
yeah.
So
But
thank you so much,
okay.
Dr. Linda.
Thank y'all for having me again, and I'll get back with you. I'm going to North Carolina. Well, I'll be back after Thanksgiving, and I'll contact y'all. Maybe we can do something again. I'd love to. Y'all are
Absolutely.
very nice.
Yeah.
Make me feel good. Okay. Good night. I guess I leave or.
All right. No, no, you stay here. We're going to end the show.
Oh,
And
okay.
we thank the
You
audience
pause.
for being here. No, you get to stay. You can
Okay,
stay.
that's okay. That's okay.
All righty. So
Mhm.
let's see here. I'm a little slow tonight, but that's okay. Who cares?
Yeah.
We hope you have
Thank you,
enjoyed
everybody.
watching
Thank you for watching.
Soulfire Ascension with Raven and Lisa Lovelight. You can also watch Soulfire Ascension on YouTube and Rumble at Soulfire Ascension, or listen to us on Spotify. Please like, share, and subscribe. Soulfire Ascension is sponsored by RavensHealingarts.com.